has it's Greek in origin. I'm third generation Australian. I guess my background, a little bit about Singularity. We live at the intersection of the values of humanity with the value of technology. And we think of technology as a resource, but it is a resource that assists us to scale at great levels. And I'm sure you can hear my dog barking in the background. Somebody's at the front door. I'll just wait for one of my family members to potentially answer that. So Singularity, yes, we use technology, but it's always a case of humanity first. So humanity comes first in everything, in every innovation, in decisions, in discussions. My background, I've got a multiple career background. I've been in film and television. I've been in education. I've been in alternate health. I've been in, I started one of the first, so before innovation became a trendy topic, I actually started an innovation section within an organization. And at that point of time, people were going, what does innovation mean? So it was a bit like hitting your head against a brick wall when I started in the innovation field. Thankfully, after that period of time, there was a great adoption of innovation. So everybody wanted to be innovative. Everybody wanted to have their innovation department. Everybody wanted to do something around innovation. There was a lot of talk, not a lot of walk around innovation. And I've got another, what I consider a funny story around that, is that I named this organization Create and Innovate. Mm-hmm. And I was told that I couldn't use the word creativity, creation, create in a title around an innovation organization because it meant fine arts and ceramics. And I'd just come back from Berkeley University in the States, and there were innovation posters around the entire engineering faculty and the medicine faculty. Like, creativity was absolutely everywhere. So I found that something that we actually had to embrace and let people know that to be innovative, you had to be creative, and that it wasn't just in the realm of the arts, although the arts are crucial in that imagination and discovery. And yeah, I guess part of my hidden history is that I'm actually a classically trained pianist. Not that I've practiced for an awfully long time. I just sit down and tinker every now and again. But I had quite a few years playing in a rock and roll band, and that was a whole lot of fun. So that's a bit about my background. I found it very exciting when I came across the term polymath. And it was okay to have a fair bit of knowledge about a fair bit of things, because I have degrees in most of those topics. But I felt like I wasn't focused. I just wanted to focus on something, and I wanted to know everything about one thing instead of having this general knowledge. But now I'm really glad, because having the general knowledge has actually served me quite well.
Good stuff. Okay, one fun fact about you before I move on to bring in Lisa.
I don't know. I like to think that the fun fact about me is that I did sing in a rock and roll band, and our first performance was a song that has actually come back now, was Hit Me With Your Best Shot. And I think they're using it around the whole COVID, get your jab idea at the moment. So that's I think it was the very first song that I sang in public was Hit Me With Your Best Shot.
Okay, let's bring in Lisa now. Lisa is an energized introvert. Oh, that's interesting. We'll ask her about this. Who realized that life's too short to not show up every day at your best self. She's a professional inventor, CEO of Vavia, co-CEO of SingularityU Australia, and is currently working on large projects with organizations such as SingularityU, the UN, ACTAI, the Extreme Tech Challenge, EO, and many others, all with a focus on solving world's greatest challenges with exponential technologies. As a future maker and planner, she sees the first step being achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals, the second, creating a vision for the world in the next 100 years. Well, if I was living for the next 100 years, we'll talk about that as well. And the third, how we can all have a 10,000-year legacy. So let's not waste any time, and without any further ado, bring in Lisa. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to the Shaily Show. How are you doing?
Wonderful. Thank you for having me.
Good stuff, Lisa. Tell us about that introvert thing, first of all.
I am an energized introvert. I like that. It's just that little bit of shaking things up. Those two words don't typically go together. So I am actually a finance professional by trade. So I love just being in the back room with a spreadsheet or a business model or something, engineering code. I might go and develop something one day. However, I also love being out there and being able to share a message with the world and connect with you now and with the audience live. So definitely introvert, but I like to be energized instead of
Good stuff. So I think I didn't do a very good job introducing yourself. So please introduce yourself to the audience.
Excellent. Thank you. You actually did a very good job. Thank you for that. I do believe that life is way too short. I'm excited to live to 154, so we can dive into that a little bit later. I've had 2 kidney transplants in my time. So one when I was 17 and one when I was 34. And so just realizing that life is way too short. So for me, it's a little bit of an obsession with superheroes. And this is a strange way to introduce yourself and your background. However, I feel like I'm Iron Man in training. Got this little bit of an obsession with having my own personal Jarvis, like a future of perfect knowledge and all of the information at your fingertips. I think rocket boots would be super cool, and just the way that we can actually solve the world's problems and being part of the Avengers as well. So my real background is I'm an accountant by trade, actually a CFO. So you don't hear many CFOs talking about superheroes when they're going live online. And I realized in going to SingularityU is that most CFOs, the approach is, where are you at now? Where do you want to be? And then gap analysis, and that's your execution plan. And then I learned about all of these technologies that were coming, and they're going to change the world in so many ways. I started getting out there and sharing with all of my clients, and then the world and education and programs saying, we need to pay attention to this. The world is going to be disrupted, and now's the time.
Good stuff. So guys, if you've got any question for these two beautiful ladies, put that in the comment section and I'll take those questions at the end of the show. And please don't forget to like and share this episode with as many people as possible. Retweet it if you're watching this on Twitter. If you're watching this on Facebook, please like and also share it with other groups that have got community thinking and marketing in that space. So one thing I didn't do very good was introducing Singularity and SingularityU, and that's because not many people also outside of the world know that. So who's going to introduce SingularityU? Lisa?
You did a great job with our mission, and it is educate, empower, and inspire leaders to use exponential technology to solve the global grand challenges. And I think in that it's really understanding what those challenges are, and then exponential technology is all around us and utilizing that to solve them. And if you think about the actual term and the history of the word singularity, it's that point in time where the world as we know it is unrecognizable. And we believe that it's coming in the next 15 to 20 years. And now is the time to create a future by design. We're all the generations right now that are creating this new world.
Good stuff. And there are 5 C's in the conversation. You converse, collaborate. What are the 5 C's?
I think the 5 C's represent the way we want to work, particularly without going into all of them. The ones that are very important to us are collaboration. So we have access to 300 plus faculty, expert faculty around the world, each experts in their field, each with the latest of research in their field, each experimenting and being part of creating that future by design. And the other thing is that what's really important at the moment is the convergence. So converging minds, converging technologies, converging ideologies as well, and how that has a greater impact. So how do we all work together to create opportunities where opportunities didn't exist? And we're very much around moonshot thinking, and we're very much around, Peter Diamandis says, where's your crazy ideas department? And we go, where's your crazy ideas department? Because without that imagination, that creativity, there is no innovation. So we have a variety of processes and theories that we love to develop innovation strategies with organizations in order to make sure that that's what happens. So how do we move together, all together, and how do we move forward to create the future that we're going to be proud to leave behind in 100 years' time?
One question I forgot to ask, and before I get into more detailed questions, what is the most exciting and personally rewarding thing about your current work? What makes you so excited and get out of the bed every day and say, I'm going to go and do this today? Lisa, I'll start with Lisa.
I have a favorite quote that's
Mhm.
from Peter Diamandis, and it's that 500 years ago, only kings and queens could impact 1 billion people. 100 years ago, it's the industrialists, and today it's you and I. And I don't know that we all realize the access to resources and the ability that we have now to make a difference in the world, and through information and education. So, for example, even just learning about plastic and some of the challenges in the world, and then being able to apply solutions to be able to solve those problems. When you can talk to people and you see that light bulb moment, that once you see it, you can't unsee it, and empowering them that they know that they can make a difference, that's really special.
Interesting. Lisa? Oh, sorry, Christina?
So I love saying that ideation without execution is hallucination. So very much around the ideation, creating new ideas, moving impossible to possible. I like saying to people when they go, oh yeah, it won't really work. It won't. I go, didn't we just put 2 spaceships on Mars this year? Like, who would have thought that was possible? And being confined as we are, and having lots of family viewing TV nights, my family have been watching Back to the Future. So it's quite amazing watching what was considered back there coming into the future and seeing what was predicted. And maybe we're just a few years off some of them, like the flying cars and there are hoverboards actually, but they're not working quite properly. But I guess what gets me out of bed is having the opportunity to enable enablers. So taking all the things that I've known, knowing that impossible is possible, and taking those things and helping people realize, that their dreams are valuable, and charting a way of how to get there. And I guess I've got a great example. I did some work with an educational organization. We taught music students how to run a business. And there was an amazing student who came to me and said, look, I really want to get this very famous singer to come and do a workshop. And I went, well, what's your problem? The class laughed at me. They think I can't get her, blah, blah, blah. If you don't ask for something, you don't get it. To cut quite a long story short, she ended up securing this quite famous singer to come and do a workshop for her. And the singer also mentored her for 12 months beyond that. So for anyone listening, don't listen to people that laugh at you. Go for that crazy idea, because you don't know what you don't know, and you don't know what's possible until you try.
So I have a statement. There are things we don't know, we don't know. There are things we know, we don't know, and there are things we don't know, we don't know. And I tell people I'm in the business of finding things we don't know, we don't know. I confuse people all of it, but that's the reality. That's we don't know what we are capable of doing, and I think we're not putting our dreams out there to find that imaginative thing that we want to do in your imagination, and we just restrict ourselves for not doing it.
Lisa, I'll leave that with you, because I know that's very much down your thinking.
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's 4 levels of that, in that there's things that we're unconsciously unconscious about. There's things that we're unconsciously conscious about. There's things that we're consciously conscious about, and then there's things that we're consciously unconscious about. And so at the moment, we talk about the speed of technology and the speed of change and how things are happening so quickly. And it is really hard for people to keep up. And we like to think about, rather than the keep up, how do you actually just tune in to what you want to listen to and what's important to you? And so if you think about information as food, we're all at the buffet at the moment, and there's every single type of food. And quite often the advertisements and the donuts and all the bad food and junk food is a little more in your face than the good, healthy options. How do you actually conscious structure an information diet? And like what you're saying, I love that you're out there and trying to find those things in that diet to be able to consume information that's really meaningful for you and meaningful, and also going to make a difference to you going forward. Part of that, creating your future.
Good stuff. Okay, so let's talk about various organizations in the Australian marketplace. How do you see what's happening in the market? How are enterprises connecting and embracing technology to learn and connect? in the current environment, as you say, Christina?
At a variety of levels. Some organizations are doing a magnificent job at connecting. Some organizations are a little bit fearful. We have the conversation quite a bit around that we exist at the intersection of the values of humanity with the value of technology. Humanity always comes first for us. Technology is an amazing resource that allows you to scale and to connect people globally. I mean, look at us. We're connecting globally every day. We're enabling ourselves to have meetings with multiple people who are all over the world. So technology is an amazing tool that way. I think COVID has, connected scientists and researchers, and sometimes that is weighing in and doing us many favors. We came to vaccines much more quickly. The testing, the knowledge comes out. We're sharing data, and it has also allowed for a fair bit of skepticism as well, and allowed that conversation to happen. But I think it's very much around democratizing innovation. But then if you drill it down to what some of the technologies are creating, and we're creating opportunities where, one day paraplegics may regain movement. There's experiments going over in the US and in the Hunter Valley, actually, in New South Wales, around using augmented reality, virtual reality sensors, robotics, exoskeleton suits to assist immerse people, paraplegics, quadriplegics, in activities that they were doing a long time before, and they're regaining some voluntary movement in limbs. So technology can take us into places like that. Agriculture, what we're doing around vertical farming that was never before possible, growing cellular meat, for example, and the environmental change that's going to make, and the availability of more food. So I think there's many aspects where we're converging fields and technologies. And yeah, Lisa, over to you for a bit more.
Mm-hmm. What do you think, Lisa?
So when we talk about connecting, it's an interesting question when we're actually here and some of us are in lockdown. So I'm 3 months into lockdown now here in Sydney, and I think we've got another month or so to go. And I love looking back on history. And so if you think about how we actually connected thousands of years ago, you typically had relationships with maybe 30 or 40 people. They were in your immediate proximity. They were your family, they were your neighbours, and that might have been just the bread maker and people just directly in your immediate physical proximity. And now as we're going online, everyone's gone full work from home because they've had to. We've disrupted the traditional ways of doing things. And to overlay another analogy, because I love doing that, is always think about business as water vessels. So, for example, if you're thinking about a large corporate is a cruise ship, you've got startups that are like a speedboat. They can move a little bit quicker and they can get out there. You've also got other different water rafts, like a paddleboard maybe. And so now we've got this ability to connect with all sorts of different people internationally. And in things like this, where we're actually talking face to face. And so we've seen this whole communities shift from proximity to actually like-minded people and people who have similar values. And so the cruise ships, they've probably got some really cool online games at the moment. I know that we've been playing online games with our faculty and with our team, and there's all sorts of heads up and quizzes and trivia and ways to connect. But there's also people like paddleboards, which, might be your startup ecosystem, and they're finding other people that like to paddleboard as well, and they're congregating together. And I think that's the most important thing, is how do you actually tap into those ecosystems that you want to be a part of? And we saw in the investment world that we didn't think that VCs or that people would be able to raise money, because typically you need to meet them in person to get a good feel for them. And so we're finding new different ways to understand and to meet people and to really connect online.
No, that's true. And I think there is another thing that is happening, and this is from my experience 5 years ago. If you were on a video call and you asked someone to turn on the camera, most of the people will not turn on the camera. And, if you ask them, it's a, well, no, not interesting kind of thing. But as I've seen in the last year or so, people are switched on, they switch on the camera. It's like the ethics have changed from not having a camera to having a camera, which is important now. What do you think?
How to show up is even more important online as well. And I've always had the saying, of how you do one thing is how you do everything. And so how do you show up online and actually represent yourself and the leader that you want to be in a digital space? We're talking about even body language. And so you lean in, you get excited, and you can feel the energy, and then you sort of look back and say, how do you actually show up? And you do those things, you connect with people, you have conversations like this. And congratulations to you for getting out there and sharing your thought leadership with everyone online, because it's so important now to show your leadership in a digital way.
When I think about it as well, well, when I think about it as well, you know, my dad's quite elderly. You know, he's 90, and he's on Facebook talking to his grandchildren because it's the only way that he can do it. He's actually mastered the art of the mobile phone. So I think there is an adoption of technology because it's the next thing. You know, like telephones came in, everybody learned how to use a telephone. A mobile phone came in, and it might have been really heavy because you know, they were probably pretty big. And now we've got all the different resources in the phone. So that dematerialization that has also taken place utilizing technology. So, you know, I think, and what I particularly love at the moment is that there's this push for connectivity, global connectivity, and you've got some of the world's, you know, leading organizations working on connecting internet, so that or continuous internet, so that children in Africa have just as much access to the technology. Then you've got other people going, well, hang on, if they're going to have access to technology, they actually need the technology to use to enhance that interconnectivity. So I think there's lots of people around the world working at this connectivity. I think what's very important is for us to make sure that we nurture humanity. So, you know, we have lots of conversations around tech can be used for so much bad. Yeah, tech can be used for bad, but it's the person behind the technology that decides how they're going to use it. So I think if we can cradle humanity and bring everybody, or give everyone an equal start, and make sure that we don't leave anyone behind as best as we can. And this is something that's growing and is scalable using the technology.
Okay, I've got a question which I need to put in there, which is a generic question. I usually don't do that, but I'm going to do this because someone has asked, Abdur Razak has asked, can I share this live in data analyst group? Of course. I just wanted to clarify, yes, you can. In fact, if you want to share this live in any of the groups, please do that, because more and more people learn from these beautiful ladies, better it is. So please do share. This is live for everyone. We are creating a community. We are creating knowledge, and we want to share it with as many people as possible. So please do that for us. Thank you very much for doing it. In fact, okay. Before I get to the next question, guys, please don't forget to like this video, share it with as many people as possible. As I said, as Abdur did. You know, like and share. We want to communicate with as many people as possible. Okay, my next question is to both of you: why is it so important to build a community in current times? What do you think, Christina?
The community has always been important. So if we go back into history, at our very earliest days, we lived in tribes. And people had a place they had that sense of belonging in a tribe. And you may not have liked the job that you were delegated, but you had a job and you felt like you had this contribution, and the community and the tribe looked after you. And if you erred in any way, an elder would take you under their wing, probably clip your ear a little bit harder than what may have been necessary. But, you know, there was this nurturing of community. Then we went into, like, skip forward a lot. We went into the industrial age and we became separated a little bit. But what I'm finding now, just to cut a very long story short, is that we're gathering in communities again, and we're finding like-minded people, and we're having conversations with like-minded people, which is wonderful from that aspect of positivity, optimism that we share at Singularity. We need to be very mindful that we don't block out other opinions. And I think, again, if we go way back in history to the ancient Greeks, for example, and they had systems of democracy that were based on conversation and debate, and putting both sides of an argument forward in a respectful manner. And if you move forward to what's happening out there, potentially now in politics, we're having those debates, but we've lost that respectful manner. So we're finding tribes where collaborating community is absolutely crucial to us moving forward, and to being an effective, or to leaving an effective legacy. But what we really need to be mindful of is moving into those respectful conversations and not narrowing our community too much.
Lisa? Lisa? Sorry, are you with us?
We're social beings, just by the way.
We can't hear you.
Have you got me?
Yeah, got you. Just. Okay.
I'm
Try and have a look what's going
hoping
on.
that my internet has not dropped. Am I with you?
You're with us
no,
now.
you're back.
Go.
You're back. Yep. Please go on.
Community.
Challenges and
we're losing you. Okay. In the meantime, let me ask you guys, if you've got a question for Christina and Lisa, please put that in the comment section and I'll take
technology.
that.
I love when we're talking
Lisa.
about technology and it's working. I think we're social beings.
No,
By the
it's
way
working now. So please continue. Tell us, why do you think community is so important in current times?
Take 4.
Lisa?
I think Lisa's frozen. Oh,
I
there
think
you
in
go.
current times, but
Okay.
in all times, we're social beings. Very evolution. Hopefully, I'm talking and it's not happening. So I'm just going to.
Okay, let's move on. I think there is an issue, and we may want to wait for a bit. Lisa, you can come back, and I will bring you back. In the meantime, Christina, we can continue the conversation. What are the lessons learned from COVID, and how do we succeed in the post-COVID world where everyone is going to then see people coming back to work, and there is technology, and how does that all work?
And isn't it it's a never ending lesson. There's a lot of talk about change, adaptability, agility, persistence, determination. If you think about it, these qualities, we've always needed these qualities. They've always been something that have been required in order for us to move forward. What we're finding is that it's happening at an exponential rate. So that whole push into being agile, into being adaptable, and into not fearing the change. So change has been innate. It's been something that's happened from you. Technology has happened from, when the first fire was ever lit, technology was a fire. When the wheel was invented, the wheel is a technology. So technology has always moved forward. It's probably not moved forward at the exponential rate that it has now. I think what we're learning out of this period of time as well is that, as well as the exponential rate in technology, there is an exponential rate in self-development, growth, and awareness. So we also need to be very mindful of mindfulness and yoga and meditation and anything that keeps us a little bit still and keeps us in the moment. Because if we're in the moment, that's how we're going to deal with the exponential change in technology. So I also think we need to be very open to moonshots and mindsets and crazy ideas, and having a moonshot, having a mindset, having that big, hairy, audacious goal, as Jim Collins puts it, pie in the sky thinking. It doesn't matter what you want to call it. It's the next big thing that you can think of. And you may not know how to get there, but you just know that somewhere in your head, like flight, somebody looked at a bird and went, we can do that, and then there was this happening between a few different organizations as who was going to be the first to fly. And it was the determination and the resilience and the refusal to give up that meant that the All brothers, won the race to flying at the end of the day. So I think the bravery, the camaraderie, the community that has always been around is being highlighted in larger ways and in more obvious ways because our communication channels are much wider. I also think that we really do need to relearn how to have respectful conversations. I also believe that potentially trust is a huge issue out there at the moment. So I think in a post-COVID world, we need to regain trust as leaders, community leaders in particular. The way systems work, the way our politics works potentially needs to be reinvented. Education, we've learnt, particularly during this COVID time, needs to be a bit a lot reinvented. And there's been talk about reinventing education for many, many years. So let's just get on with it and change it. I think things like micro-credentials and the ability to be a lifelong learner is I think all these things were happening before. COVID has highlighted a lot of them.
Yep.
You know, if you're learning in an organization, it's been highlighted. The ability to develop new skills highlighted. The ability to use technology, as you mentioned before, highlighted. We've all had to use technology. You know, the ability to pivot and react to the situation that you're in, highlighted. Everything's been accelerated, if you like, because of medtech, highlighted. Red tape, cut through it, highlighted. You know, everything has need to have happened at a faster rate.
Let's see if we're trying to get Lisa back if she comes in. Hi, Lisa, you back?
Let's see how we go.
Looks good. Okay, so the question is again, why is community so important in current times? And what do you think? We've learned from COVID, and how is it going to be post COVID? Go on.
Absolutely. So we are social beings just by evolution and by nature. And so when we talk about why it's community is important now during COVID, but also I think it's just important all of the time. And I love to think about, I'm a frameworks kind of person. How do you actually map out this anything by design? So who are the people in your immediate proximity that you want to spend time with, and who are the people in different areas of your life that you want to spend time with, and then be conscious about it. And so I'm at home here by myself at the moment. And so during COVID, it's really interesting because I need to reach out to people. And right now it's birthday week for everyone. And so I've actually done the review and thought, who's in my 5 kilometer radius? And then who do I want to catch up with? And the family and this and that and friends and different groups. And then having social online chats with people. I think it's something that I've learned definitely that post-COVID is being able to have some structure and know who you want to spend time with and being conscious about it is super important.
Well, very important, interesting thing you highlighted, Christina, is the use of technology. And what I was thinking, what if COVID happened and we didn't have internet?
A lot
It
more
would be challenging.
So I was running COVID. I was running live shows by bringing doctors to people during the COVID pandemic. So that people could reach many more people. But that was because of internet. My children can study even at home because of internet. So look how technology is at the right place at the right time for the pandemic to have happened. Otherwise, we would all be struggling by now. Don't you think?
Lisa, you want to have a go? Well, we've got you.
Definitely. There's lessons to be learned as well from an individual level, but then also from a company and business level. So we're all now working from home. We've had to learn these new ways. So technology is enabling that. And I think this is just the very start of what's going to be. And so we're working with products such as Microsoft Mesh now and augmented reality and virtual reality, and there's going to be this ability to connect in all sorts of different ways. The haptic suits are incredible. And so as a business, how do you actually have a post-COVID business model is one of the questions that I keep asking people. Is your business COVID proof? Is it pandemic proof? Is it future proof? And knowing some of the technologies that are coming. So that for me is a big highlight at the moment. If people aren't doing it, if they're only just struggling and coming online and working out how to connect and have community online, how do we then actually foresee into the future? Let's look ahead 2, 5, 10, 15 years and be able to start adapting now so that we're the disruptors and not the disrupted.
Interesting. Christina?
Definitely. So it's all about as I said before, it's bringing medical issues. Not only are we as you said, able to bring the doctor into the lounge room now, and that had to cut through a whole lot of red tape. So I love the fact that all this red tape. I'm the kind of person and I'm about to broadcast this, who asks for permission or asks, asks for, I apologize later, and, sometimes forget to ask for the permission that's needed. But I think the fastest thing that has been the cutting through the red tape, just being able to bring a doctor online. But not only that, taking medicines, taking tests through drones, etc., out into outback communities, that
Absolutely.
has been quite remarkable. And that was happening slowly before, but it's all been accelerated. And we're finding different ways to use the technologies that exist at the moment. So who would have thought that robots would have been an aspect of contactless delivery? I mean, we were at an event in Silicon Valley. We stayed on campus at NASA, and there was a robot in the elevator that would take drinks and food that was ordered for room service. Now, that was a novelty at the time. Now we're seeing, Amazon robots and other robotics being used for contactless delivery, which is amazing. The contactless delivery, that means that less people are out there spreading potential COVID to greater members in the community. We wouldn't have been able to do lockdowns before. So even the communication channels, everything. So definitely technology is something that we can embrace. And as I said before, it's something that we use for good and for good intent, and use with impact for specific purposes.
Very interesting. Let me ask the audience, guys, what do you think? If you've got any question, put that in the comment section. Anything you think is important to be highlighted, building the community, and in the times we are living in, please highlight that in the comment section, and I'll take that. And please don't forget to like and share this video with as many people as possible. Okay, what are the challenges that we're seeing in the current environment? With one of the challenges is technology, as we just keep our internet to be working fine. We just saw. What are the other high value tickets that are looked as challenges, Christina?
Shalinda, before I answer that question, there is a question in the chat. With so many
No,
emerging...
we'll take the
Oh, we'll do
questions
it later? Okay, sorry, apologies.
later
I
in one go.
noticed the question was up there and you were asking for questions. I wasn't sure when you wanted to do it.
No. Go for it.
Okay, can you ask me the question again?
So I said, what are the challenges that you see in the market at the moment, which is stopping people from getting connected, getting together as a community? Is that, well, one is technology, as clearly is, which we're trying to fix as we go. But what are the other challenges do you see? Is there a mindset issue as well?
Definitely. So definitely a mindset issue. We need to embrace an open mindset issue. Fear is playing a huge part in a reluctance to move forward as well, a distrust. So we need to regain trust. We need to regain, and I think the right words are being used at the moment. And for me, it's like the words get used and then we fall into the practice of the words. Like with innovation, innovation was a word that nobody really knew what it was, and then it was a word that everybody wanted to use. And now, just now, in the last maybe 5 years, people are embracing innovation for what it means, and they're using it. And we are actually seeing amazing innovations, often through necessity is how an innovation happens. And I think it's the same with trust, with authenticity, with ethical discussions that need to be had, but they need to be had respectfully. We need to go back to kindness, compassion, respect as the basic foundations for humanity across, and those principles actually go across all races, religions, ages. We need to be out there listening to each other. We talk about diversity and how we want diverse people in the room and diverse opinion, and yet when we get it, sometimes all we do is argue against it. So for me, moving forward, what's going to enable us to move forward are going to be those fundamental human issues around trust and embracing respect and compassion.
Mm-hmm. Lisa?
I love this question around challenges at the moment, and if you want to focus on it, that's so I think focus is a big thing. We were talking about the internet just quickly. There's there's 3.8 billion people not connected to the internet at the moment, and they're going to be coming online at 5 gig speeds in the next 5 years. And so in terms of challenges, I think having it fair and equitable for all. I saw a study recently around how many devices per student for homeschooling. And so if you think homeschooling here in Australia where we are is tough, then we typically got one device per child, whereas in some of the developing nations, it might be one device per 100 children. And so that is a challenge in itself, which I believe, there's a lot of people working towards solving. Our framework, and we talk about mindset, technology, and impact. And I think from a mindset point of view, it takes you being in a growth mode, not to be scarce and have a scarcity mindset. And so how do we actually, like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, help meet all the base needs for all of humanity, to then be able to get them to that point of, or us all to the point of self-actualization where we want to give back. Technology, it's education around understanding what technology is available, and then impact is really understanding what the challenges in the world are to be able to contribute our collective productivity to something that's important. And for the data scientists and people out there similar to me that are just obsessed with statistics and what we might be able to do, one of our faculty, Dr. Wolfgang Fengler, shared with me recently, he said that if anyone is doing any types of data analysis and it doesn't include 7.7 billion people, you're already not inclusive. So understanding exactly where we fit into the equation is really important.
No, absolutely. I totally agree with you. One of the challenges which I see is the shyness of people, and that is quite important. So if you look at, I've been running these live shows almost every week, twice a week. What I've seen is that people are so shy to ask questions. I've got around about 100 people watching at times, and unless the first person asks the question, not everyone then suddenly everyone starts asking a question. So even if there is the question in their mind, but it is not coming out, there is that kind of an inhibition to actually go out there and ask that question and be part of the community. I think that's also there. That's, in my view, is a big practical challenge. What do you think, Christina?
I think that all becomes part of the, I don't want to be seen to be the dumbest person in the room. I don't want to ask a dumb question. I'm worried about where I sit. So I think there's a whole lot of issues in that. I think bravery and having the courage to ask a question is 10 points already in my belief system. I think we need to be very prepared to fail. Some organizations at the moment are doing amazing jobs at recognizing the lessons that come from failure. And I think the word fail itself has lost its meaning. So failure didn't mean, oh my God, I'm out, I'm dead, I'm finished, I've made the biggest career mess of my life. Failure meant, hey, I tried something, it didn't work. Now I'm going to try again. It's the old Edison quote that said, somebody said, oh, he failed 1,000 times or 999 times. I'm sure it's a really nice number to pick. And he said, no, I didn't. I was 999 steps closer to success. Now, they're not the exact figures that he said, but it was that ideology. So, I go back to what I said before. If we all failed the first time we rode a bike or the first time we tried to walk, which we did, we all failed the first time and we never tried again, there'd be some very rich pants people around, because we'd all have holes in our in the clothes that we may or may not be wearing, or we've had very sore backsides from crawling around still. So I think that permission to fail, and we've used the rhetoric in Australia around the fail fast, and various prime ministers have come out and said fail, and as soon as they do something that's out of line or that somebody has deemed to be a failure, we're so quick to pull them down. So until we put our money where our mouth is, and until we absolutely back failure, we're not going to have the success that we want. So I think that is definitely a mindset. So mindset of fail fast, learn the lessons. And for me, it's being courageous and asking a question. Like, how many questions did we ask so innocently when we were little? And had either answers to or didn't get answered because some grown up couldn't answer the question. But just be courageous.
Absolutely. I totally agree with you. And taking a note from what you said, guys, you have a question, put that in the comment section. And I'm sure, because there are around about 30 people watching this episode at the moment in the live setting, and I'm not seeing questions coming through. So please put a question if you've got a question. Don't be shy. There is no wrong question. I usually have a story around wrong questions. Well, if someone didn't ask a question about, if we were able to connect a copper wire in two different parts of the world and speak on the other side, there would be no telephones. And so there is no wrong question. Please ask a question if you've got in your mind about community and how community building is done. And please don't forget to like and share this video with as many people as possible. Okay, future. Where do you see all this going? Where do you see the learning community going in next 5 to 10 years? Lisa, I'll start with you.
Next 5 to 10 years, I feel like things in the world is going to be very, very different. So definitely from a learning point of view. And when we talk about the next 10 years, I'm excited, as I spoke about Jarvis, like in Iron Man, this future of perfect knowledge. And when we think about it, currently on the planet, we've got about 50 billion devices and 1 trillion sensors. And in the next 10 years, we're going to have 500 billion devices and 100 trillion sensors. And it's the ability to know anything, anywhere, anytime. So think about even planet.com. You can tap in and you can develop on their servers and their satellites. They've got hundreds of satellites orbiting the Earth every day, and you can real time go and track shipping, or you can track farm. You can track, I've got a business that we're working with that are tracking invasive species to be able to know when there's an outbreak and then be able to treat the problem before it actually becomes a big problem. And so the way that we learn in education, I feel, will be very different because we'll have access to more information. My fear around it is, at the moment, if you actually had a scale of information from Twitter, which is real time, through to social media, Facebook, and then all the way to books and then academic and encyclopedias and the rest, academic papers, there's almost this section in the middle that's repurposed content that's just over and over and over, and people are getting onto the one line up bandwagon, which really challenges me. And so for us, I look at Twitter for real lifetime updates, but then how do we get our information, our knowledge from really reliable sources? And I love that you mentioned earlier is that we don't know what we don't know. And so in the next 5 to 10 years, I believe that we'll be a lot more prepared to be able to filter the information that's important to us and then learn and be educated based on that hyper-personalization era that we're entering into.
Well, hyper-personalization opens a whole new door around privacy as well. And we'll talk about it some other day. Let's keep stuck to community. Otherwise, we will start a discussion on personalization, hyper-personalization, which is very favorite of one of my favorite topics. So, Christina, what do you think? Where is it all going?
Particularly with learning, I think we are on the brink of reinventing what it is to learn. I am totally one of those people that has always believed in lifelong learning and that there's always new things to learn. I believe that we all have our own individual skills set that we're also born with. We're born with a passion for, Lisa's born with a passion for spreadsheets and processes, which works brilliantly because I'm born with a passion for the arts and the creativity and the imagination. Not that Lisa's not, because she's as creative and as imaginative. But we all have our individual skill sets that we need to bring into the world. And I think we are realizing that there is space for everybody's individual skill set in the world. Lifelong learning, curiosity, what it means to continue to be able to contribute in that way. And also being able to not contribute if we don't want to, in that big global picture way, but knowing that the effect that we have on our immediate families and friends is equally as important as the effect that we have on the globe, because we're creating ripple effects with goodness and kindness and things like that. And I was reading an article today around being a career mum, what it means to be a career mum, not in the sense that you're a mother and you have a career, but in the sense of what is the progress that you make being a mother. And which is just as valid, and let me tell you, often much more difficult, because you're dealing with very multiple personalities some days, depending on how old your children are. But we have a place. Everybody has a place and a special gift, and that's where I see learning, lifelong permissions going, in that enhance your curiosity. Be brave to find out about the things that you want to find out, and live your best life that way. Because, as Lisa said earlier, we're going to live to be 100 plus because of the effect of that technology is going to have on us. So don't we want those years to be stimulating and amazing and wonderful and full of conversation?
Mm. And do you think that the workshopping environment is going to change, as it was everyone getting into a room and then talking about stuff from there to possibly virtually having technology where you can actually interact more than you can today?
This comes back to your question around community. So why do we
Hmm.
go to workshops and why do we do those things? And I think the magic of going to live events and doing things is the people that you meet and the collaborations that you make. And so we're going through this transition now where all of those things that have typically happened manually and in person are also getting digitized or augmented with digitized solutions. And so even at events now, we're looking at how do we do it in a hybrid way when we're back in person, but from a community point of view, how do we actually enable them with the tools so that they can know who's going to be a match to actually meet, rather than just taking your chances by being at the right lunch table. So that will definitely shift, and the content will be more hyper personalized, like we say, and the workshops will be really relative to what might be a challenge in your current world at the time.
Mhm. Okay, guys, this is my last question, and I'll then go to the audience Q&A. But to you guys, both of you, do you think of any use case that you've seen with an organization which is innovatively, created a hybrid solution around community and a workshop and being very successful? Um, Whether your SingularityU was involved in it or not, it's up to you to name them or not name them. It's up to you. I'll leave it. So, Lisa.
We do actually have an app at the moment that we've needed to digitize what we do in person. So part of that, we talk about how do you actually teach people to ask? And Christina says all the time, don't ask, don't get. And so what naturally happened when we had an event, and even 10, 20, 30 people retreat gatherings, is we'd get together, and what would happen, actually I'll give you an example. We'd go to Necker Island every year with the Extreme Tech Challenge. And so we have this global competition. There's 3,500 plus applications every year. And then we take the top industry winners and then we get them together and with some other commuters, and magic would happen. And we call it community capital because people would rally behind them and we'd be saying, what do you need? How can we help? And there'd almost be like this spotlight, which would help leverage and elevate people out into the community. And so when we're in COVID times now, we're thinking, how do we actually digitize that experience? How do we help all of our startups and our ecosystem with what they need, knowing that we're 1 degree of separation from anything that they need? But if it's on emails and texts and things like that, it's just not possible. And so for us, being able to create a master asker platform and through Wavia, being able to bring on those community members, teach people to ask, teach people to give and collaborate, I think that's been really important and special to us. And part of that is then how do we actually leverage and inspire others to have a ripple effect that'll make a big difference? And so the people that we can bring together, they're solving really big challenges. And we've got so many examples of, I mentioned earlier, the one that's doing, they're from planet.com, and they're looking at biodiversity of species and pest breakouts for farmers. We've got a number of different startups that are actually looking at soil quality and how do we actually reduce the amount of water and increase the nutritional value of the plants and the food ecosystem. We've got an X Prize at the moment, which is to feed the next billion. Through X Prize, it's sponsored by Tony Robbins. And so you're seeing communities do really cool things. How do we actually bring them together in that ecosystem? So for me, that's something that I'm really passionate about and excited to be able to see how we can digitize that more and how we can empower everyone to be able to help each other too. Because there's always something definitely feels really good when you're able to help other people.
Christina?
I think the word hybrid will also find its true meaning. So I believe that we are looking at the best of both worlds. So what would it mean if my colleagues in Singapore and I'm here and we want to work around the same table together? And that's what Mesh is doing. We saw it firsthand at the SingularityU Summit in March. So we experienced that, as Lisa mentioned before, the haptic suits make that feeling part that we all crave as well. I think the other thing that COVID's highlighted is that we are a social being. As Lisa said earlier, we need that human connection. But when we don't get the human connection, and this screen, I think, I get Zoom fatigue, and then I don't as well, because a lot of people will then chill out and go and watch, like we do sometimes, is watch Avenger movies and Iron Man movies and things like that. But this medium can make me angry, sad. It can bring me to tears. It could, it can make me happy. It can make me laugh. It's a medium. It's another tool. So my physical human energy wants to be in the room with someone. My stimulated intellectual thirst for knowledge brain goes, okay, well, today maybe I can't go out and be at that conference in Boston right now, but I can plug in. Using the internet and using broadcast platforms. So I think we're also finding our feet on what is comfortable for us. I'm a total beach girl. I walk every morning near the ocean. If I don't do that, I go absolutely spare. But I wouldn't give conversations like this up for anything either. So I think when we find that balance that we need is where the hybrid will actually come in. So we're very fortunate to be living in these times, because if we work it right, we've got the best of both worlds. And that's what I'm finding with technology and the way that people are using it. We're able to have collaborative teams, as Lisa said, around X Prize that work together at global levels. And we can also have that physical connection and the support. And Lisa, when you were talking about the X Prize and that whole community, I remembered the first, this is a first-hand case study, the first Global Impact Challenge that we ran, and we had worked with around 12 different startup groups, and we had them pitch at an event in Melbourne. And the absolute delight when the winner was announced from the other 11 startup groups was just that sense of amazing community. And it was funny because the winner actually didn't realize that he'd been nominated as the winner. So he started clapping, looking around for someone to step out. And everyone else is going, no, it's you, and really urging him and wishing him every success and being and there's still a supportive group. That was a couple of years ago. So I think the ability to find connection and community across a great field is increasing.
Interesting. You mentioned hybrid. Can you bring it to life for the audience, just so that in plain word, because there are lots. So I say that to people. We throw a lot of acronyms all the time. So just take that hybrid and just peel it on for a minute.
Lisa, you want to take it, or you want me to?
You can go first, but I've got a quick little example to share as well.
So hybrid for me means a real melding. So when we ran, I'll take it back to the summit because that's our real life experience of it. We had 80 people in the room because that's all we could have at the SingularityU Summit in March. So we had 80 people in the room. We had more people tuning in on screen, but then on stage we had 3 people live, and we had 2 people coming in on Zoom because there was no travel. So one of them was coming from Belarus. We were doing an example with the Tesla suit. So we had them coming in from Belarus and someone else coming in from Singapore. So it was a hybrid event. It was the melding of being in the room, being present, with being international, using technology, and luckily it worked. But being in the room and having technology allow us to go out to a much wider audience because people couldn't travel, and B, bringing in experts from all around the world because people couldn't travel. So we had the best of both worlds.
I want to flip it back the other way and share with people, now that we're online and we're connecting online, it's really easy. You can see someone's name. You can also then just open up another tab on your internet and you can search them. You can find out about them and have relevant conversations. And so when we go back to being in human, in-person form after lockdown and we've got these big events, what will you miss? Will you miss the ability to do that? And so then, insert the hybrid back the other way. Things like the OrCam. So this is an OrCam, me, And it's a little camera that actually augments my reality. It connects to my social media, and it'll buzz on my watch and my phone the person's name as they're approaching me, and any reminders I've set for that person or anything that might be relevant. And so whilst we say hybrid when we're back in person, what about what we're going to miss from being online? Something to think about.
Very interesting. Actually, there is another thing that comes to mind is the Facebook Ray-Ban goggles that they've just launched last week, which has got two cameras, and it can read as well. So I think they will be able to do exactly that, look at your face, do facial recognition, and figure out who you are. And then maybe you can hear in your ear that that's Christina or that's Lisa, and they work for SingularityU or something like that. Sky's the limit.
Siri will announce that you're approaching and X name is coming near you, and you saw them 2 days ago, and you might want to acknowledge them or not. Yeah, I can't wait for that, because sometimes I'm daydreaming, but and then what does that mean? That our brains are going to be totally scrambled. So I think we're really going to find that hybrid balance between technology on time and technology downtime. I hope they never become waterproof. I don't want to wear them underwater.
No, very, very interesting. I think sky's the limit, and there is so much of opportunity. And I say to people that there are a couple of things, and we mentioned the word innovation quite a lot. And I used to be doing these innovation discussions, innovation half days with the C level, and I would talk to them about new ideas, do this, and then afterwards they will ask me a question: where have you done this before? And I said, had I done this before, it would have not been innovation because it's already there. Look at the meaning of the word innovation in dictionary. That's the first thing you need to do. So there is a lot of things that people need to think about where they want to go, and that's a lot of hit and trial as well. But again, to your point, fail fast and deliver goods. As you mentioned about that little app, that little product that's you can put in here, and suddenly you get to know about the individual very, very quickly. I think we're going somewhere, a very different place. So, yep, let's very quickly go to the questions. We've got a couple, so let me just take that up. Give me a second, and we'll go to the audience Q&A. Here we go. So the audience Q&A section. There was first. Let's take the comment, and there was a comment from Aruna Patam, and she says, "Hi, Shailendra, Lisa, and Christina. Hi, Aruna. How are you? Hope you're still watching." Okay, and Aruna has a question, and her question is: with so many emerging technologies and different ones popping up, how do we keep up, and how can community help?
I think that answered in your question a little bit, in that it's impossible to keep up. And I like to talk about innovation. 100 years ago, some of the best you could choose was Band-Aids or hair dryers. And, that was the most incredible innovation in 1921. And then you fast forward to today, and there's something new being invented every single day. There's innovation happening. There's 7.7 billion people who have new ideas every single day. And so rather than keep up, that's why I think communities will start to gather with like-minded interests, where you actually start pushing forward and being able to innovate and create and design that future in that industry. And it's just then, how do you be conscious about the information that you want to keep up with and you want to lead the way with, and then block all the rest out as noise.
Mm-hmm.
I think it goes to your point, Lisa, earlier as well, about the information diet, like select. I love that. I love it when you talk about the information diet. I also think that there's different issues that are relevant to different communities. And they're the things that maybe we need to start focusing on. So I do believe there's an overwhelming amount of challenge in the world at the moment. And we can be so overwhelmed by it that we think that we can't make a difference. But if we bring it back into our community and start making a difference in our community, and then we extend that out, and potentially maybe we come up with a formula that can expand globally. But at the very least, we've affected our community. which makes a whole community feel better. And if a whole community feels better, the ripple effect of that on health and on our hormones and everything else, that has a ripple effect out into a greater community. It has an effect out into our workplaces, which could affect things globally. So I think it's really important to go, what technologies can we use, just personally? Lisa mentioned the Orcam. We both have Oura rings. With the Apple Watch that has actually saved lives. It's meant that people have been alerted that they're going to have a heart attack. The ambulance comes, they don't actually have a heart attack, and that there's a couple of documented cases around that. So I think they're the kind of emerging technologies. Different things popping up all the time. I think we will become more and more responsible for our own health through that is one thing. But then keeping up with your field of interest or where you've noticed an area of concern is how we're going to keep up. And then community can help community in itself by making small incremental changes.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Next question again from Aruna, and she says, what community out there we can approach?
I think that depends on your interest in particular. And just following on from the last question, we have a saying is that you should, we can think globally, but act locally. And so what are those community challenges that you want to tap into, and what do you want to solve? What are your passions? What are your interests? And then tap into those types of communities. And I think if you're not sure, always ask. And I love the ideas of mentors and whatnot. And that's you don't know what you don't know. And having mentors in your world is getting out there and sharing just with family and friends and community and at work of, you'd love to be passionate or get involved in a group that's doing something like this. You'd be really surprised how many people actually reach out and give recommendations of communities that they've been a part of or groups that you can tap into.
Mm-hmm. Brilliant stuff. Lisa, you want to add, Christina, you want to add something?
Yeah, I think you just go to different events, go to a few, be selective about what networking events you want to go to. I know I was involved, I've been involved with a couple of book festivals, and I got to interview the amazing Natalie Isaacs, who wrote, who's running 1 Million Women, a charitable foundation about how the difference at 1 million women, mind you, we've challenged her to change it to 1 billion women. So what, the difference, that the ripple effect that can have when they're bringing in some of the things that will be beneficial to the environment at home. So I think if you get out and go and selectively choose a few different community things to go to, select a few newsletters that you don't normally, they're not in your field, so you're learning something different. I subscribe to quite a few newsletters. I don't read the whole newsletter. I'll read the headlines. If there's an article of particular interest, I'll select that article and I'll go in and read it. But I think you can meet lots of different community people that way. LinkedIn, we're connected on LinkedIn, which I absolutely love. So that whole meeting different people, learning different things from different people, and there's a plethora of podcasts. Listen to a few different podcasts, or listen to a podcast like ours, Inspired for Impact, and be part of this show, the Shaily show. Every week we're bringing different people on to explain and expand on what their knowledge is. That's how you become involved with different communities. It's this sense of exploration. So 70-20-10 rule, 10% of your time, start exploring what else is out there.
No, but you made a very valid point. Actually, LinkedIn has started, since they've started doing these live shows, there are so many people. If you go on LinkedIn, there is someone live at some point in time, at all times, right? So you've got so many professionals out there. And I think going there, joining them, asking questions, contributing, I think it's a community in itself. It's such a huge community in itself. I think we can all add value very, very quickly if you want to. Good stuff. Thank you very much. So these were the two questions I had today. Thank you very much for joining me. Before you go, I would like to ask you one question, final question, or a final statement that you want the audience to leave with, possibly a sentence in less than 10 words. What would you like to say? I'm going to put you on the spot.
Lisa, you go first. I'll put you on the spot.
No, thank you. I'll follow on from what we've been talking about just now. And I think that proximity is really important. And so think about the energy in your world and where it's coming from. And even if it's through the phone and it's through online, what type of energy is it? And really do that by design. So proximity is power. and design who you spend your time with. And on that note, thank you for spending your time with us here today. And yeah, we're glad to be a part of your proximity as well.
Thank you, Christina.
Perfectly well said. How did you do that on the spot like that? So mine would be alchemizing impossible to possible. Nothing is impossible if you have the right mindset, the persistence, the determination to push through. And I'll say what I said right at the beginning. We put 2 spaceships on Mars this year. What's not possible? All we need is the will, the impact, the intent, and the community to help us do that. So go for it.
Thank you. Thank you for those statements. I would add, impossible itself says I am possible. So I don't know what is impossible. So thank you very much, both of you, for your time today. It was a pleasure having you on the show. I'm sure audience enjoyed it, though they didn't ask much questions, but I'm sure they've taken away a lot of insights from you two. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you, and I'll see you soon.
Thank you, Shailendra.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
So, guys, that was Christina and Lisa, the co-CEOs of SingularityU in Australia. I hope you enjoyed the show. Before you go, I would like, and we talked about LinkedIn, I would like to share with you an app that we've just launched. That app actually allows you to use LinkedIn and take a look at how your LinkedIn is. What are you missing on LinkedIn, and also gives you how you project outwards to the world. And today it's an invite only app, and then today give you the access to the app so that you can use it and share it with your friends and colleagues. So as you see my screen, if you've got a camera, just scan the barcode and just download it. Whether you're downloading it on Play Store or App Store, you can download the app very, very simply, or look for Link Plus AI on the App Store or Play Store. Download the app and use the invite code 611074 so that you can download the app and get access to the app. It will help you improve your LinkedIn profile and also tell you how you project outwards to the world using LinkedIn. So please use this app, and it will be really good. It uses artificial intelligence to actually help you do that. So all you need to do is use the camera and scan the QR code, and it will take you to the App Store or Play Store, whichever device do you have, or look for Link Plus AI and then use the invite code when it asks you for 611074. So that's a giveaway for today. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for watching the show. It was a pleasure having all the audiences out there to watch me. Thank you very much, and I'll come back to you pretty soon this week. We've got another show coming up very soon. So thank you very much. Take care. Bye. And please don't forget to like, share, and retweet this video. And also, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, please press the follow button. If you're watching this on Twitter, press the follow button. On YouTube, press the subscribe and the bell icon. And if you're watching this on Twitch, then follow me too. So all of that, thank you very much.